Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Small Streamer Diaries. This is episode 11. And I have with me today my friend, Excellent Flex. Flex, how are you? Thank you so much for being here.
I'm doing very well. I'm humbled to be here. I was giving Rebecca as much gratitude as I could for being patient with me, as she's been waiting to do this for a long time. So as you guys know, she's fabulous, and we have had some really good chats in the past when we first met, actually, about a lot of streaming stuff. And so I was very honored to have an invitation to be on here with you guys. So thank you for having me.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yes. So I have been trying to get Flex on this podcast for a while. It's been like, I think I asked you for the first time, maybe like in September. And we had a lot of DMs that went back and forth, and just, we had just
Hmm.
hadn't been able to set something up. But I kept pursuing this because I knew Flex was going to be a really good guest. And like Flex said, like this topic is one of the things that we first talked about. But I'm going to introduce the topic in a second. Flex, why don't you do an introduction of yourself for those that don't know you?
Cool. Yeah. My name is Excellent Flex, and I think I am just a very humbled a guy who's very grateful to be able to stream full time, and I've been doing it for about 4.5 years. I have a I feel like the stream is more like a talk show podcast than anything else, because I do a way too much just chatting. I'm just saying that as a joke because everybody makes fun of me because I don't play enough games. Um, but yeah, just a really dynamic stream, unbelievable community of genuine friends, and we just have a great time every week. So I've been very lucky to do that for a handful of years. So
Yes, and I can confirm Flex has a really great community. I mean, he's a super nice guy, like really great guy, and he's created this amazing community. Like every time I go into his stream, everyone's like Rebecca. It's like cheers when I walk into your stream. Everyone's like Rebecca. So today's topic is something that Flex and I actually first connected on, which is, how do you tell if people are genuine versus fake in the streaming community? Because,
mhm.
when I first started streaming, like even before I started streaming, I guess, because I met Flex even before I started streaming. It was a little bit before I started streaming.
Yeah,
And I was just like going around Twitch and like trying to get to know Twitch because I'd never been on Twitch before. And very quickly I found out that I was very naive when I first started. I feel like I felt like, I thought everybody was like so welcoming, and I thought everybody loved each other, which is not untrue. Like, I find people like Flex who like genuinely care about other people, but then very quickly I found out, not everybody has the best of intentions, and a lot of
yeah.
people are just trying to use each other for views and subs and raids. And
Hmm.
as soon as Flex even said this to me one time, like, as soon as they get what they want from you, then they just disappear
They
forever. They
disappear.
act
Yep.
like they want to be your friend, but then as soon as they get the views, the subs, um, oh, you know what? Oops, I have to move something on my computer. I had my notepad up, and I guess it was recording it in in Streamlabs, but that's okay. Okay, so yeah, as soon as they get what they want from you, they just leave, and you never see them again. You never hear about them again.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
this is one of the things that Flex and I connected on. So my first question for you, Flex, is, through your streaming journey, when did you first notice that, people may not have had the best of intentions?
Um, and that's kind of interesting too, because I think it takes, I don't know, everybody's different. It takes some time to notice these things, and
Hmm.
like when you first start streaming, you're really you're hoping to meet as many friends as possible. And yeah, I mean, really, at least on my behalf, I think, and I'm probably speaking for both of us, you're hoping to meet really cool people that you can get to know and build some friendships with. And so because of that mindset, maybe you're very open and like you're cool to meet everybody. um and so, like, for me in the beginning, and I say this, and I feel like I'm still very open with everyone too. I'm just very I'm paying attention behind the scenes, like in my mind.
Hmm.
Whereas in the beginning stages, I gave everybody free passes pretty much for the most part to be as open as they wanted to, and kind of run with that. And sometimes people would run a little bit too far. And then I started to notice that there was patterns of people who would take my generosity to, like, talk about themselves, and if they
Yeah,
streamed or if they had a business. And some people would really run with it. And I
sure.
think there's a range, when someone says, like, please tell us about this, and if you're meeting somebody on the first day, there's an appropriate range to talk about those things, and that range maybe expands more as you get to know that person, just as you would if you were meeting somebody for the first time. um, so I think first starting to notice it when I was starting to stream was just seeing the extent at which, if you were going to give somebody a pass, how far they would run, um, and that was and it's hard to gauge that because some people do it intentionally and some people do it unintentionally. So a lot of it became a matter of just me trying to interpret their actions as well intended or not well intended, and maybe not well intended is the bad. Maybe it's more like selfish or selfless. So
Mhm. Yeah.
um, it's different though. I feel like it's sometimes you can see things very clearly. Sometimes they pop up, over a month or two, and people's behaviors may change, and so on and so forth. So
Yeah, yeah,
um,
I
yeah.
agree. It's so hard to tell, which is one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast is like, how do you tell? And it's a lot of discussion about, people's behaviors can be very unpredictable.
Hmm.
So do you ever feel like having that experience? Because like for me, when people ask me, in their streams, like, "Oh, Rebecca, so do you stream?" Like, if it's somebody I'm meeting for the first time or don't know very well, and they ask me if I'm stream, I'm always like,
Yeah.
because I really don't want to cross that line of
Sure.
like self promoting. So I'm very like overly aware of it. I guess I would say now. I
Yeah.
don't want to say too much. I don't want to feel like I'm self promoting. Do you ever feel that way
Totally
when
understandable.
somebody asks you?
Um, that's a good question, actually. I will say I'll try to look at it um, in terms of like how. So when somebody enters like my stream, I like to ask that question, and there are a lot of people who point blank will be like, I stream, but I don't really want to self promote, and then there are people who respectfully are like, yeah, I'll tell you a little bit. So what I like to tell people is like, if or I'm just speaking on my behalf, but like if I am giving you in my stream an invitation to like talk about yourself, go for
Mm.
it, like, and and obviously when I say go for it, I'm not saying like,
Yeah,
I think everybody needs to have a level of knowing what a respectful way to approach going for it looks like.
yeah.
So
Don't like spam
if
your
it's your
links in chat.
yes, if it's your first time on a channel and somebody gives you an invitation to talk about your stream, then cool. Give us a little summary. I like to tell people, imagine I was reading the back of a book and you were going to tell me what your stream was about by reading me the back of the book part,
Mhm.
a summary. Um, so I think 99% of the time everybody goes about it wonderfully. And then every once in a while, you see someone and they're like,
Yeah.
okay, I got an open door. I'm
Oh,
running through it full
yeah.
speed. I got 4 paragraphs. I stream. I have this, and this, and this, and this. And then I immediately see that this is not them taking a chance to let everybody get to know them as a
Mhm.
person and also a creator. It's them taking an opportunity to say, I am a creator and here are all the things that I do that pertain to creating. And please look at me. And it's hard sometimes to judge those interactions, but I feel like
Yeah.
it's a good way to kind of
Yeah.
have an example of that. Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you, do you remember, when we first met, when I came into your chat for the very first time and I said, "Hey, I'm Rebecca, I'm new here." What do you remember about us first meeting? Like, do you remember what your first impression of me was?
Well, I remember. So the first day you came in, and what I really liked about you is we got into some good chats very
Yeah.
quickly. Like
Yeah.
I could tell you were very easy to talk to, and you were interested in actually communicating to me,
Uh-huh.
which is interesting because sometimes, and that's I think the basis of part of our discussion here is when you see someone who's got a piqued interest in talking to you, there's a lot of past, but there is, okay, do they have good intentions? Do they really want to get to know me? Or is there something else that they're looking for out of this? So, like we're always paying attention as streamers to like how somebody responds to the questions we ask,
Mhm.
how they ask us questions, and so on and so forth. When you came in, everything was very genuine. So immediately when I get a good feel from somebody and I feel like their questions are well intended, they're genuine, and they really want to get to know me or be part of the space and just ask like really good questions, then immediately like I can let my guard down. And for you, as this conversation flowed very easily, I could tell that you were just curious how all this worked, like
Yeah.
Twitch and the community, and I could tell you were excited about like the space, and I didn't weird you out, which was nice, and we were like having fun. Just it was no different than if we had bumped into each other at a coffee shop and we're waiting for our coffee and we were just started chatting, and I'm like, wow, this is effortless conversation. We
Yeah.
click. And that's how it felt with you. It was very, very easy, super simple.
Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate it. You hear that, guys? I'm
Yeah.
awesome, is what I
Yes.
heard out of that. Okay, so,
That's why
but
Rebecca's crushing it. Yeah.
okay, so let me ask you to elaborate on this then. So, what do you mean by, when you said I was actually trying to communicate with you? What do you mean by that?
Mhm.
Like, what were the things that I was saying that told you, okay, Rebecca's actually trying to communicate with me in a genuine way?
Well, you came in and you introduced yourself, and I believe, I don't remember the exact question you asked, but you came in asking me questions about myself and the stream and the community. And I could tell that you were genuinely curious,
Hmm.
and it felt like good curiosity. Um, so because of that, like good curiosity, I was very excited I was really excited to like talk about the channel and talk about all the friends that were there. And it's always obvious, like people enjoy talking about themselves. So it's nice to have you asking me questions. And um, I felt like your intentions for being there were really good. You wanted to get to know the community. You had an interest in just getting to know me as a streamer and understand how the stream worked, and you were discovering Twitch. And I was like, this is really like, this is very human, I think
Yeah.
is a good way to say that. Yeah.
Okay. So, like, personalized questions specifically to
Yes.
you is what showed you that I was
Yes.
really interested
That's a
in
good way to say it.
you as like a person and streamer in your community.
Yeah.
And
Very personable.
okay.
It was, I could just tell that you wanted to get to know the space, not just
Yeah.
me, but like the people that were there, the space, how the stream was interacting. And that was, I enjoyed that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, and I want to say like what I noticed about you Flex is that like as soon as I come in, and you still say this, I notice you still say this to every new person that comes in. So, if anybody goes into Flex's chat for the first time, Flex will tell you this too, but he told me when I came in, he was like, one of the first things he said to me was like, Rebecca, if there's anything I can help you with, let me know. And he still says that to like every new
Oh, you're
person.
sweet.
And but Flex, when you don't know somebody, like how do you say that to people, when you don't know them, and then, like you find that like people take advantage
Sure.
of you?
That's a great question. Um, how do I answer this on the spot? I'm trying to think of a good example. Let's say that let's say that you were, for whatever reason, you're at Lowe's and you're getting a lot of like lumber or something.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, you can do it yourself, but it's like insanely tedious. And I'm walking by and I'm like, hey, would you like some help? And so this doesn't take you an hour. And you're like, sure. So if I come in, someone comes into the channel and I'm like, hey, let me know what I can do for you. I want you to have fun here. I think that it is really important to always pay attention to how much somebody is willing to take when you're willing to give.
Okay.
When you're just getting to know somebody,
Yeah.
it's okay to like take a lot if the circumstances are appropriate, right? But if you're just meeting somebody for the first time, it's like, if I'm going to help you with the lumber, what if I help you with the lumber and then you're like, actually, can you also help me with this? And then
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
would you help me with this afterwards? And I don't have money for gas. And it's like,
Yeah.
how much are you willing to take for my offer? Um, so I pay attention to that when I ask somebody like, hey, can I do anything for you? And I've had people, and most of the time everybody's cool. They're like, oh, thank you so much. And then every so often someone will pop in and they're like, yeah, actually, I would really like to get your take on this subject. And we talk about a subject and all is well. I've also had people who, I say something like that, and then they go into a very specific, like I can tell that they're really, they're preparing a really big, like a big ask of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really appropriate
Yeah.
for how well we've known each other or how
Sure.
long we've known each other. So I just pay attention to how much people are willing to take. Um, and maybe that sounds strange, but I feel like everybody to some degree kind of does that when you offer assistance to someone. Like I always tell people, if you have questions for me as a streamer, or if you want to know something about me or something about streaming, ask. And if somebody goes right off the bat and is like, um, I don't know if they were going to ask some extreme question like, how much money do you make and how can you get to a point where you're making a lot of money on Twitch? I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
that's an example of like, if I give somebody an offer and they want to start with that kind of question, then I immediately a red flag comes up. Um, so anyway, hopefully that's a good way to kind
Yeah.
of answer that question from you.
No, that's a great answer. I mean, I
Yeah.
haven't thought of it that way, but I have been wondering that because you do tell people, new people every time they come into your stream that you're like, oh, if I can help you with anything, let me know. And then, because we've talked about people taking advantage of us as streamers, I was
Yeah.
wondering like, oh, how does Flex deal with this when he's offering it to people, help to people that, he doesn't even really know.
Hmm.
And like I really appreciated it when you said it to me. And then like I've known you since, okay, so probably like a
It's
year and a
been,
half now.
yeah, or going on a
um
year and a half, 2 years,
yeah,
something
almost
something
two
like that.
years I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't think I've ever asked you for anything except for to come onto this podcast. And even that was
No.
like
Yeah.
very difficult for me because I was like, it's very hard for me to ask my friends for their time because everybody's so busy. So even
Yeah.
that was like very hard for me. And I did chase you for months to get you on this podcast. So, I really wanted you on this podcast.
Which I respect and
Um,
appreciate. Yeah.
but one of the signs about you that I felt like made you like a genuine streamer, because it's not just the viewers, right? It's like we find that there are streamers out there that are also not genuine, and
Yep.
they'll just try and use people for views and subs and raids and stuff like that as well. And that was one of the first things I noticed is like you offer to help everybody, which is I don't think I've ever seen anybody else do that, to be honest.
Hmm.
And I'm like, that takes like a certain type of person to like offer help to people like that they don't even know.
Yeah.
And then I notice you still say it to everybody that comes into your chat, like new that comes into your chat. I notice that people in your community, they come into your chat and they just like tell you stuff, about their lives. And that tells me that like they really trust you, and that you are very genuine with them. Because and I see a lot of people, it's not just like telling you about their day, which they do also, but some of them go into like very deep personal stuff.
Yeah.
And this is a stream, it's a public stream where anybody could come in and like find out about all the personal stuff they're going through, but they want to come in on stream and tell you about it. And like that tells me that they trust you a lot. So I think that's another sign that you can tell like someone is very genuine, is like if their community trusts them.
I think that's a really good point too. Not to point myself out too much by any means, but if you're in a space where everybody is very open, um, and it can be with the streamer, it can be with everybody in chat. Um, I think that communicates something, right? It shows. I mean, even if you were just a fly on the wall watching the interactions take place,
Hmm.
uh, if you get a large group of people together and everybody trusts, and for my stream, I'm very grateful and lucky that everybody has like allowed me to get to know them very well. And the byproduct of that is everybody that's there at the moment also gets to know all of each other at the same time. So there are friendships that start, which is great. So even if you were looking in as a fly in the wall and you didn't know that we were all friends, you would at least, I think, be able to tell that like, hey, everybody's really open here. We're being mutually respectful. There's a lot of empathy. Things just kind of flow naturally, and there's not a lot of tension. Um, so I think in response to or adding to your comment, I think that's a really good way as well to just, and not just in my channel or yours, but in other channels as well. If you get a really good vibe and things are respectfully open, like respectfully in regards to like good communication, empathy, sincerity, etc. Um, I think the likelihood of less shenanigans is very high. You don't have to typically worry so much. I was going to go back to like the first question you asked me. I'm really grateful that most of the time, I would say most of the great interactions I have on my channel, nobody is trying to take too much or trying to take with bad intention. Most of the interactions are really, really great.
Yeah.
So, that's different everywhere, but
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, like Flex was saying, like, okay, you could be like a fly on the wall, but yeah, do that. Like, I think that, when I first came into your chat, Flex, your stream, I think I just kind of sat there for a while and was like looking at the chat and like looking at you as a streamer before I said anything.
mhm,
And that's something that, you can do as well as a viewer is like go into somebody's stream and just like kind of observe for a while before you say anything
yep,
and, see if you see any signs of like toxicity or, genuine people, don't just go
yep,
straight in and like start talking because,
mhm,
they might be like, oh, new person and like put on like a good front, but
sure.
you don't know what they're going to really be like.
Yeah, I think that's a great point as well to just observe.
Yeah. Okay, so what are some other signs you've noticed about people that, they may not have the best intentions, are just kind of looking for people to use as views?
I think an easy one is I was actually talking to another streamer about this earlier this week. Um, I'll use just, and this is hard because I know sometimes I'm going to use streamers as an example, mutual streamers. Uh, this is kind of tough because I know sometimes, like as a streamer, I don't always have the social energy or the time to
Mhm.
be super present in a chat.
Yeah.
So, what I do under those circumstances is I just lurk and listen. If I can't be part of the discussion, and this is probably just because I'm a little bit too extreme when it comes to communicating. So, I sometimes put a little bit too much pressure on myself to be present or not be present. So if I don't have the time, maybe I'm on a time crunch or maybe I'm doing something else, like if I can't be part of the discussion for a good chunk of time, I just like to listen. Um, so I think a good indicator sometimes that potentially somebody is there for more than what they may communicate is seeing how present they are. So, for example, like if you're streaming and you meet another streamer and they're all hyped about you and we're getting along and this and that, um, pay attention to how present they are. And
Mhm.
if they're showing up every day and they're there for 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, they're part of the discussion, like they're really there. They're being present. And I think like if somebody shows up, like let's say you were to raid another channel and you have a great time there, and then the streamer from that channel joins your stream, perhaps by following, so that they can catch you on a live stream in the future. Um, if they show up for just 10 to 15 seconds for the first couple of weeks and they just say, hey, just wanted to stop by and say hi, lurk,
Mhm.
and they're really not there, then that's for an example of like perhaps you should be a little skeptical. Like, are they here because they really like you as a person, or are they looking for another raid from you? And
Mhm.
and I have to preface this with like there are so many potential examples of this. Not all of these scenarios equate to the streamer wants something from you. I mean, that's the really tough part about this subject is I think it's up to us to make these interpretations. And so I think a lot of this in terms of figuring out how to best interpret these actions is just being genuine on your end and hoping that is reciprocated by the other party you're talking to. And if you're both being really genuine, then I would hope that most of the interactions that follow are also genuine, and you have a better chance to interpret, they're being present or not present. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of us, and you're probably yourself included, Rebecca, when you're getting a vibe that somebody may not want to stick around for a long time or is just there short term, I feel like we usually have that feeling, and
Yeah.
not all the time, but.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely very hard. But I agree. I think it's a lot of experience and time it takes for us to as streamers to learn these signs of people because when you first start, like you're not going to know, especially since everybody's behind the wall of the internet and they're
Exactly.
anonymous. You might not even know their real name.
Yeah.
And so it's especially hard when you can't see their face, you can't see their expressions, their tone of voice, you don't even know their real name, you don't know what they're like. Anybody could make an
Hmm.
account online on YouTube and Twitch and come into your stream.
Yep.
So it definitely it's really difficult. It takes Yeah, I think you're right. It takes a lot of time and an experience, and everyone's different too. Like everyone
Yeah,
has different levels of things that they will accept from viewers and other streamers.
exactly. And I like just to add on, I I'm kind of like on board with, you know, how do I say this? I think it's okay to have somebody pop in and maybe deep down inside you may know that they're not really interested in sticking around long term.
Hmm.
And like I've grown to recognize that like that's totally okay. At the end of the day, whether or not somebody's showing up for good or bad intentions, it's up to the streamer to decide how you react to that. And I used to have quite a bit of streamers my first couple of years who were really there for like a week, and then I would raid them and I'd never see them again.
Yeah.
And I used to take that really personally. And now I'm like, at the end of the day, and whether or not and this is not entirely revolved around rating, I just think that's an easy example of this.
Hmm.
It is somebody can show up for 4 minutes a day, and you know what? They're still showing up for 4 minutes, which is pretty cool. And if you feel some tension and not if you feel like they may want more from you than what they're communicating, it's up to you to decide if you're going to let that bother you. Are you going to give them when maybe they do or do not deserve? I don't know, but I think to some degree, just letting things flow naturally and recognizing that like as the streamer, you're still you open or close the door. It's up to you.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I've had a lot of people come and go, and I knew there are so many times when somebody joins, and in my mind, I'm like, I will probably not see them next week,
Yeah.
and that happens a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? For the next week, we'll have a good time,
Yeah.
and I don't have to give them anything if I don't want to. And what I've started to do is I'm really, really intentional when I decide to give a lot more or raid or whatever it may be. I'm very intentional with who I pick, and that's like earlier you said when I offer people, I'm like, what can I help you with? And most of the time, I'm 99% of the time people ask stuff and I'm totally cool with it. And I enjoy responding and
Hmm.
it's effortless for me. 1% of the time I'm like, eh. But other than that, it's fine. And so I think that's an interesting take as well, as recognizing that it is okay if people come and go.
Yeah.
Even if they have an intention to want to take from you, you still have to give for them to take something,
Yeah.
for it to be salty, so to say. Like
Yeah.
so we can be the gatekeepers, is what I'm trying to say, respectfully.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you said that because this is something that I hadn't thought of. That you might have a great time with somebody for like a week and then they never show up again, and that's also okay. Like I hadn't thought about that at all. Like yeah, there's an in between like people who will join your community forever and
Hmm.
be there most of the time in your stream and might even become like a moderator. And then
Yep.
there's, the people that just want to use you for their own means. But there's also like a big
Hmm.
in between, which I've never even thought about before. But there are people who might join your community for a little while and they might be a great person and, they might stop showing up. And that's okay. I mean, they're not like a bad person. You had a great time with them. You really enjoyed talking to them. Like that's
Yeah.
also okay.
Yeah. Quick example. I had this is like 2 months ago. I randomly, if anybody has a Discord, I will start my day and I'll pop my Discord open, and you can tell if somebody joins the Discord. And every once in a while, I'll have someone who will join when like the channel wasn't live. So I had an individual join after a long 3-day weekend. So that I wasn't live for 3 days, and they joined on one of my days off. So I immediately like I see that. So mentally I'm like, I'm gonna keep my eyes peeled for them in stream. Anyways, I go through my channels and I see that right as they joined, they came into one of the general chat channels and immediately started talking about how they're a great photographer, how they do great emotes and graphic
Hmm.
design. So I could tell immediately, I'm like,
Yeah.
they joined the Discord to promote themselves.
Yeah.
They didn't go too overboard though. They didn't put any links. They just took the chance to tell everybody about their graphic design stuff, even though they've literally never been to the channel. So I see that and I watch it. So I knew from the get go, I was like, this is probably somebody who will show up on the stream and may not stick around for long. And they may actually take that opportunity to try to talk about their graphic design work. And But I'm like, let's see how this plays out. And
Yeah.
so the next day I streamed and they showed up in chat, 20 minutes into stream. And I let them introduce themselves and they talked about their graphic design stuff as I figured they would. And I was like, let's just see how this plays out, and from that stream onward, they showed up every day for a week. And I just let the conversation flow naturally after that introduction. I looked at how they talked to me, how they talked to others. And for the rest of that week, they didn't bring up any graphic stuff and they were genuinely part of the discussion. And they actually, in some of the talks that we had, they added good value to it.
Mm-hmm.
They never came back after that week.
Yeah.
And that was it. They're still on the Discord. They every once in a while pop up when it's a chance for them to kind of promote their graphic design work. But it's not over. It hasn't crossed the line yet. So I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But just as an example, like they were there for a week and I had the feeling they wouldn't return. And they haven't been back for a few months. But in the week that they were there, we had fun. And they really, not every time does it end like this. They could self-promote for a full week. Sometimes that happens, but it was a 5-minute period. They really went for it. I was okay with it because it wasn't overboard and we had fun for a week, so
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. I feel like as a streamer, it's really nice to have the chance to, at least sometimes you just have to give somebody a chance,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be the same way. I would be completely on my guard if they came in for the first time and started talking about like their graphic design,
You should
especially,
be. Yeah.
if anybody's like on Twitter, if you're a streamer on Twitter, you get so many graphic designers and Twitch and YouTube emote and thumbnail whatnot designers
Yeah.
trying to like get in your DMs and tweet at you and trying to sell you their like graphic design work. So that would put us on guard very quickly.
Yes.
Like so like I immediately I would have been like, this person's one of those like people on Twitter that's just trying to sell me like their graphic design stuff. So yeah, I mean, sometimes, like, hate to admit it, but sometimes we are wrong about our first impressions of people, like even as streamers, because it is very complicated. So on the flip side, Flex, what are some signs you've noticed of people who are genuine? Other than, like what we've already talked about, like, they show up, they ask you personalized questions, they're active in your chat.
That's a good question. Beyond the stuff we've talked about, I think a lot of it really pertains to how they choose to be present with the time that they're kind enough to give to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like for every streamer that's different and it's up to you to interpret that. I'm trying to think if there's like a good example that I have on the fly, but I just look at how people talk to me and how they talk to others.
Mm-hmm.
And I consistently, you're not always having to ask this question outright, but like look at their intentions through their words, and I think when it comes to really genuine people, you can tell pretty easily if somebody's there for a good reason or not. And I think a lot of it, and I don't want to just say consistency as a blanket statement, because I have friends that I've met and I only see them on Fridays. And then sometimes I don't see them for a month. But when people show up, it says something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying that so respectfully because I know not everybody can show up all the time. But I feel like this is so streamer related because you'd have to like feel it to know what I'm talking about. But like I have a couple of friends from Asia that watch the stream, and they are up unbelievably early for their jobs. And I have this really wonderful gentleman. He can usually hang out for like 20, 30 minutes, and I see him once a week maybe. And that's that, but he's being present with the time he's willing to give me. Not that I'm asking for more of it. So outside of that, I think like good engagement is an easy one. I'm trying to be as open-minded as I can because not everybody that joins our streams wants to talk and chat. They may not have the energy.
Yeah.
I just ask yourself, like, how is somebody choosing to be present and are they being present? And I think if they're present, there's a good level of them being genuine and I don't know, they tend to be quite fun to hang around. So
Yeah,
I
and I
hope that
think
answers your question to some
yeah,
degree.
yeah, definitely. I think to elaborate on that too, or to add on to that as well, it's you can look at who what like what somebody is giving you without expectation. So like a lot of
There you go.
people do this like follow for follow stuff. Like I get this all the time. Like
Oh my God. Yeah.
people will like sub to me on YouTube or when I was on Twitch. I don't find this as often on YouTube as I did on Twitch, but like people will follow if you don't know what follow for follow is, and you're listening to this, you don't know what follow for follow is or sub for sub is. It's when people follow you on Twitch or they subscribe to you on YouTube, and then you subscribe or follow them back. So it's follow for follow or sub for sub, but it's kind of like an empty follow or an empty sub because they won't
Mhm.
actually come and watch your stuff. Like it's just to get their followers or subscriber count up, but people are very direct about it. Like I'm like surprised that people are
I
so
know.
direct about this because they would literally just tell me like I followed you, now follow me back. And
Yeah. It's like, come on. I mean, like,
yeah,
this is
yeah,
empty, literally,
yeah,
like follow me because you enjoy me. And
yeah,
if I enjoy you, then I'll follow you. Right.
yeah. Like you want to support people genuinely because you think they're a good streamer, a good content creator, or in some cases they actually become your friends, which I think there's a line there too between like viewers
Yep.
and friends. That's probably another topic for another time.
Mhm.
But you want to look at like what are they expecting from you. So like if I first time I met Flex and I followed him and I wasn't like going in there going like, oh, well now follow me back. Like
Nope.
and then, if you sub to somebody, like a lot of people will go and subscribe to people on Twitch or what they call memberships on YouTube. So people will become members. And a lot of the time it's just because they want you to do it back to them. Like
Back to them. Yeah.
like they subscribe, like, and then that's asking for even more because like you're spending money but
Mhm.
they'll like, go and subscribe to you and then they'll want you to subscribe back. And if you don't, then they'll stop
They
subscribing
stop
to
supporting.
you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so
Those are
okay.
tough.
Yeah, one more story I want to share. So, okay, not this is not a story about like how generous and kind I am, which I am, but this the point of the story is not for that. But when Flex got engaged, I gave him and his fiance like an engagement
We
present, but
still
it wasn't
we still use them.
I appreciate that, but like it was because by that time Flex was really supportive of me. Even before I started streaming, I was like very very nervous, and Flex told me, you probably don't even remember this, but at the time, Flex said to me like, you know what, Rebecca, you're very expressive in chat, and that tells me that you'll be a very good streamer.
Yep.
And I mean, like I was just so nervous about streaming, and then Flex was very supportive of me and he like gave me a lot of confidence. And so I was like, okay, like I want to give back, I want to give, support back to Flex. So I got him an engagement present to him and his fiance, but like I'm not constantly going like, oh, I gave you this engagement present.
Yeah.
Now,
Give me.
you owe me something. Like I never even mention it. Not
Nope.
not not that this is a story about how amazing I am, but it's just an example of like I wasn't expecting anything back. I think.
You are fabulous and very very
Thank you.
thoughtful. So, and I'm sure all of you are aware of that as much as I am. I think that, like, for that particular story, it was a great story. Um, she gave us some lovely housewarming gifts, which we still use. Um, I remember Rebecca when we were jamming in chat, and I was like, man, this girl really like talks very well. Like she articulates herself well. She expresses things, and it's not a blank expression. It's like she expresses something, and I'm like, I want to ask another question because I want to hear what she has to say.
Hmm.
And then you brought that energy to your channel, which I thought was wonderful. So like for an example, when I followed Rebecca, we were still getting to know each other, right? And Rebecca was showing up every day. She was present. She popped into chat. And I want to make this clear, you guys, like you don't have to do that to be a good person by any means. It's up to you as a streamer to decide if somebody has good or bad intentions. And then you can invest your energy in them if you want to. But I was noticing every day, and I knew Rebecca was working at the time. I'm like, this girl is making time to be here. She's talking in between meetings and stuff. Like, how thoughtful, you know? So my trust in her was going up, and it's going up, and it's going up. And so I was like, and then she mentioned she was going to start streaming. And I'm like, I've had phenomenal conversations with her in my channel. She's brought a lot of great value. I want to follow her and see what she's about. And I followed her, and we continued to have really great interactions back and forth. There was no, Rebecca gave me the really lovely engagement gift, and then I was giving her something back with a raid or
Mhm.
whatever. And it was not a transactional thing. We were being supportive of each other as friends, and we both genuinely enjoyed uh, each other's streams, communities, and individually. And things, they worked, they flowed, and it was effortless, and I think that's an approach everybody can take too. And if you have an approach like that and it doesn't turn out to be what you thought, it's always okay to pull back
Mhm.
and realign yourself with somebody else if you need to, or if you find someone's intentions are bad, etc. I don't know if you want to add to that or not, but
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, it wasn't transactional. Like, we had to get to know each other
yeah.
for a while and become
Hmm.
friends before we ever, like, subbed to each other, or, like, back when I was on Twitch. You subbed to me when I was
Yeah.
on Twitch, but, like, before I ever, like, got you the engagement present,
Yep.
it took time for us to, like, I mean, it's coming up on, like, 2 years now that we've known each other, so it takes a
Yeah.
while. It wasn't just, we were giving each other, we were like buying each other stuff because it was like, oh, I
No.
bought you this, now you buy me this. Like, it took a really long time for us to get to know each other. And then now it's
Hmm.
not, yeah, it's not transactional. It's like we are supporting each other, like, as friends.
Yes.
So yeah, like, it's don't think of it as like transactional. Like, don't expect things from other people just because, like, you've done something for them. You should, support people because you think they're a good content creator, a good streamer, or, like, sometimes they're
Yeah.
friends. But like I
Hmm.
said, like, there is a difference between, like, friends and then, like, viewers and streamers. So
Yeah.
that's another topic maybe for for another day. Flex, you'd be really good for that as well. But anyway,
That'll be a fun one. Yeah.
okay, so kind of related to that topic, like, how do you handle networking with other streamers and content creators? Because that it feels kind of the same way, where, like,
Sure.
other content creators and streamers, they just want you to help them grow their own channel.
I'm gonna answer this question honestly. I am very bad at it. Um, that's the one of the areas I look back at over the last 4.5 years, and I'm like, man, I could have done a much better job.
Hmm.
Um, I had a really bad habit of, I stream a lot, and when I would finish my stream, I'm tired. I had a blast.
Yeah.
Um, but like when I would finish my stream, I'm like, okay, I turn my computer off, and that's it for the day. Um, and I wasn't spending near enough time trying to actively go and say, I want to go and try to meet like-minded streamers who I may click with. So for a long time, I was not very proactive at doing that on my end. So I'm going to answer this on behalf of a few friends that I have made over the years that have done that on their end, and I reciprocated it really well. And I was able to see that, like, oh wow, it's okay to like try to go and meet other streamers with good
Hmm.
intentions,
Yeah.
you know? Because I think a lot of people have a hard time distinguishing if it's okay or not to like go network. Um, so I've not been the best at it over the years because I tend to spend not a lot of time on Twitch
Hmm.
outside of my streaming
Yeah.
as I would like to, and that's just me charging my social batteries. Um, so like what I will say is the opportunities that I had to meet some friends that also streamed. When I really clicked with somebody, it wasn't effort for me to want to go watch their stream. I was just like yourself, Rebecca. I was interested. And
Hmm.
so I think if you want to try to network with another streamer, be super genuine about it. I'm really big on that because I don't know. Maybe I'm too extreme on it, but I think if you want to network with somebody and you want to potentially like get to know each other and maybe help each other out, like make sure you align yourself with someone that you genuinely really like. You
Hmm.
enjoy their content, you like their community, they reciprocate that, and perhaps they return the same interest. naturally, right? That's what I think is right. Um, and then networking is something that it moves in a direction that feels like building a friendship, which it should be, instead of it being very business oriented.
Yeah.
But it's okay to have like I think like an intention to say, I want to meet somebody so we can help each other out, but I want to make it for the right reasons, you know? Just like what you were saying earlier, Rebecca, about like follow for follow is lifeless. Um, Find a channel that you really love and then follow the channel. And if you interacting with that streamer goes really well and that streamer is interested in finding your channel, then isn't that the kind of follow you would want from someone who has genuine interest in you? So I think the same kind of pertains to networking. Although I'm trying to work on my end on telling myself it's okay to go and search with good intention and find somebody that you click with. But I think for me, like it's important to find that person and then really be part of their community and stream because I want to be there, not because I'm forcing it.
Hmm.
And if all those boxes are checked, then I'm like, okay, then maybe we extend the hand to say like, hey, let's like do a co-stream together or something after the friend like the bond has been established.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a bit too extreme on that. I don't know, but
No,
it's kind
I
of my take.
yeah, no, I agree with you because like it's your content, it's your channel. You want to be very selective about who you're going to put on your
Yeah.
channel. And even if they're a great friend and a great person, it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to create good content with you. Like maybe I have a great friend who only ever plays like, I don't know, Call of Duty. Like I don't really, I don't play Call of Duty. I mean,
Mm,
I'm not like against it. I just like don't play it. So it's like what like what kind of content would we create together? Like maybe they're great as friends, but it's like I don't know if there's really someplace on my channel. So I mean, it's got to be a good fit with your content as well. So just because you don't have somebody on your channel, it doesn't mean they're a bad person or a bad content
yeah.
creator. It just means maybe they create some other kind of content. Or maybe I have a friend who creates content on like I don't know, like home improvement. It's like my channel's not
Hmm.
a home improvement channel, it's a gaming channel. Like what
Exactly.
what would
Yeah.
they be doing on my
Yeah.
channel? But yeah, I agree. Like you really take the time to like get to know people. Don't like like we were talking about, don't like expect things from people, but
Yeah.
find creators of like don't just go looking of for creators that are bigger than you, because a lot of people do this. They just go look for
Yeah.
creators that are bigger. They try to get like an easy
On
road
their
to
good side.
success. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they try to make friends. Like if you ever like go into a stream on Twitch and a partner on Twitch shows up in the chat, everyone's trying to get their attention because everybody wants
Yep.
to be friends with the partner.
Click
And
on my yeah, look at me,
yep.
look at me.
Yeah,
You're just like
yeah.
hoping they click on yeah, I know
Yeah,
exactly what you're talking about.
they're
Yep.
like adding the partner all the time and trying to talk to them because they want to show up in their channel. They want to get a shout out because they just want this like easy road to success.
Yep.
And I mean, I can't even imagine what like the bigger content creators deal with.
They deal with. Yeah.
Yeah. And but like you want to find people that are going to help you grow, like you help each other grow. Like
Yeah, because you care about each other and
yeah.
you enjoy the content that you each other posts, right?
Yeah.
It's good intent. It's well intended. I think you're spitting the facts wonderfully. Yeah.
And I think like don't just try to get bigger content creators attention just by saying like, hey, look at me, like check out my channel. Like you prove your value first, kind of like what we were talking about when we were getting to know each other before like I ever got you the engagement gift, because it's like
Mhm.
you showed me a lot of support and then I want to give back to you. So we were supporting each other. It was support for
Yeah.
support.
And you
And
know what? It was effortless and it was fun,
yeah. And
right?
but if you like it's providing value first before you get the audience and you get the support. You want to prove that you have the value first, and then just by that of your own merit, other bigger content creators might notice that you have valuable. They won't care how big you are. It's just they want to see like, do you have something valuable to contribute? So like for
Yeah, it's
example,
okay for it to be mutually beneficial,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
It's
because
good
like
intention. Yeah.
I post on Twitter all the time about like Twitch and YouTube and my thoughts on Twitch and YouTube and all that stuff. And I was on, so there's a podcast, Tube Talk. It's the vidIQ podcasts. If you don't know vidIQ, if you're trying to grow your YouTube channel, they only focus on YouTube. Um,
Yeah.
but they're a really great channel for information, like free information on how to grow your channel. And they asked me to be on the Tube Talk podcast. And I'm sure at the time people were like, how did she get on the Tube Talk podcast? Because she's like a tiny channel. Like, I'm not even a YouTube partner. But I just had all these tweets that like said, I had something of value to say, and they didn't care. Like, they didn't care how big I was. They just cared that
Right.
they thought I would be like a good person to talk about, like, why did I move from Twitch to YouTube? But I wasn't me going like, vidIQ, hey, look at me, look at me, look at my channel.
Well, and you're also very passionate about providing value to others who may potentially be interested or who are really interested in moving to YouTube. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I'm not, I don't know what they think of you, but I would imagine that uh, vidIQ is your right. vidIQ.
Yeah, vidIQ, yeah.
I'm sure when they saw you, they're like, wow, this girl she is about this. Like,
Yeah.
she is all about our intentions for this channel, and she's doing a great job, and I'm sure they could discover that you're very personable. You're obviously very kind. And those are the things that, like, when it comes to networking, align yourself with somebody who is a good person and who you get along with naturally, and maybe who has the same. I was talking to a friend of mine 2 days ago, another streamer. Like, you're maybe it's just about going down the same path together, different paths but
Mm-hmm.
in the same direction, and you guys are you enjoy each other and you want to help each other out. You're literally gassing each other up so you don't run out
Yeah.
of fuel.
Mm-hmm.
um, and those there are a lot of potential great friendships out there that I think people could really be a part of, that provides that. And it's not about take. It's about you guys are helping each other out.
Yeah.
Everybody wins,
Yeah.
and so I think the vidIQ, God, that was a great example.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so this is going to be my last topic, and this might be a really hard one. Like, there's no like answer to this really. It's just something that I think about, Flex, and I wanted
Okay.
to know if you thought about this too. But what I
Yeah. Yeah.
think about, when I think about like people, crossing lines in chat and just like spamming their links and like just trying to use other people for views and stuff. Do you ever think about, people that are maybe like neurodivergent or on the spectrum or have like
Yes.
social disorders and they can't really draw that they can't tell where the line is? Like, do you ever think about that and like treat it differently? Or I don't know if that's the right way to say it. I just
That's a great no that you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you posed that well. So I try to be as open-minded as I can. That's why I said usually I give everybody an open door.
Hmm.
I watch how you walk through it. And so, like, I will give you an example of what I think is a good opportunity to see this. There are sometimes I meet I meet people and I can tell that they're maybe they struggle with a form of communication or understanding some level of social boundaries, expectations, etc. Um, and if I feel like I'm getting that vibe, I give them a lot more. I give
Yeah.
them so much more free room.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, it's for all of you watching, it is up to you to determine what that boundary is. I try to make it as wide as I am comfortable going, because at the end of the day, like, if somebody's really there for a bad intention and they're looking to get something out of me and I don't give it to them, they won't be here next week anyways. But if they show up next week and they keep showing up, there's a chance that perhaps um, maybe they won't, maybe their intention will change and we'll get to know each other well, etc. A good example of like the opposite of that is I had somebody stop by. This is earlier last year, and they came by and I gave them I introduced myself and I gave them the opportunity. I said, hey, if you want to tell us a bit about yourself, if you're involved in streaming or you have a passion that you really care about and you want to tell us your first day here, go for it. They had their very first message in chat was, hi, how are you?
Hmm.
The second message they posted after that was this, huge paragraph about them looking for commissions for doing emotes
Mm.
and this and that. And I read that whole thing out to everybody that was there. I think there were 60 friends there, etc. And I still gave them leg room. I said, I go, great, we're talking about this, and I go, would you like to take the opportunity to upload some of your work to our Discord if you want, and you're comfortable with that? I'll show it on stream for everybody to check out, and if you want them, perhaps you'll get a person or two that may be interested in your work. So what they did, they said they didn't have a Discord. So what they did was, I said, if you want, you can send it to me on Instagram. So they went right ahead, right after, uploaded all these things, and sent me this huge, list of work that they do, and etc. And so I said, so anyways, that was 2 minutes back in chat, and I'm reading everybody else's messages as well. So I see that they had sent me that. So I get caught up on chat, and then I go, okay. And then I call their name out. I'm like, if you're still here, let me know, and I would be so honored to show your artwork off. The second they sent all their artwork to me and they gave me all their details to give people for potential commissions, they pieced out. So
Oh boy.
I literally called their name out like 4
Yeah.
times for the next 15 minutes, gone.
Yeah.
So I was like, all right. So I didn't show any of it off. And like, that was a very easy example of someone who showed up, they waited for me to open the door, and they ran through it.
Yeah.
They took everything they wanted to, and they were like, all right, here you
Yeah.
go, gone. And they were going to go, I'm sure, to another channel and try to do the same thing, so I don't know if that quite answers your question regarding like the social aspect. That was like an extreme example of where I'm willing to give somebody a lot of leg room
Yeah.
just in case.
Yeah.
And I always look at how how do they respond to me? How are they communicating? How are they interacting with me? How are they holding themselves in chat? Like, these are all little things that you should take into account to ask yourself, is this somebody who maybe has like an issue with social dynamics or doesn't quite understand the boundaries? And I've had people like that stop by. And if I'm getting an indicator that maybe that's the case, that there's something that they're struggling with, I give them as much leg room as I can.
Yeah.
Unless there's a point where they cross the line or something, so
Yeah. No,
I
that
hope,
makes
I hope that's a good answer. Yeah.
yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's, I think a lot of people don't think about that because a lot of
I
people
agree.
have not had experience with people who have social disorders or, are neurodivergent, and they don't know how to handle it. So if somebody, shows up in their chat and they might be neurodivergent, and the streamer like immediately is like shutting them down, calling them out, whatever, because they're just
Yep.
not aware that it could be some sort of like social disorder, and they're not, always understanding social cues and social boundaries. And then streaming also gets into this like parasocial, like weird parasocial situations. Like there was these 3 streamers I heard about, they were doing a stream of like ghost hunting. They were at this like abandoned building, and somebody in their chat like figured out where they were, and they like just showed up, and that's not okay. But
Yeah.
and like the 3 streamers posted about this, like on Twitter, and like was like, they were very like, you should never do this. This is really creepy. Don't ever, ever, ever do this. This person has been banned, blocked, whatever. And I'm like, okay, I understand, but at the same time, I was wondering, like, but does that person, maybe they didn't really understand the social boundaries. Maybe they had some sort of, social disorder where they don't understand. And I don't know. It's just something that I think about.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to consider and especially, like, streaming it's all social for the most part, and I think with a lot of social interaction, we have to consistently be practicing empathy.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And through empathy, sometimes maybe you can catch yourself in a scenario where maybe you're not being as understanding as like you should be, and it could really make the world of a difference in somebody else's day.
Yeah.
Where maybe 99% of other people would have never given them the time of light.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great thing to be mindful of.
Yeah.
And maybe not something that everybody is thinking about all the time. I mean, I'm sure plenty of times where that's not actively on my mind either.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that could probably be like its own episode topic, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So, well, those are the end of my topics and my questions. Is there anything else you want to bring up, Flex, related to this topic?
Yeah, I think I hope my responses made sense because I think sometimes my brain works in different ways. But I think that I think we did a good job. You did, I should say, guiding this in a direction that gives everybody a chance to maybe have an opportunity to think if you're in this scenario, maybe you can have a little bit more insight into how to react to something and or maybe how to go about something a little bit better. But I think yeah, I don't know. I think when it comes to meeting like the right people in your stream, as long as you're being genuine and you have good intentions and you're communicating well and the other party is doing the same thing to you, most of the time, most of us, I hope, will have really good experiences. And at the end of the day, if there's somebody there and you feel like their intentions or expectations are not well intended, like we're the gatekeepers,
Mhm.
respectfully. You're the gatekeeper. You don't have to lean into something. If somebody's interacting in a way that you don't agree with, you don't have to read their message. And most of the time, if there's somebody who's just there to take something from you or just wants something and then wants to leave, if you don't feed into them, they will go somewhere else anyways. You don't even
Mhm.
have to interact with them because that can be uncomfortable in its own, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's I don't know. At the end of the day, I think most of us will be hopefully in a position where we're all okay and we can all kind of learn. Rebecca and I are still learning
Mhm.
how to deal with this ourselves. I think we've both had many circumstances where it's been frustrating to really vibe with somebody and then only to find out a month later that they really, maybe weren't really that interested in us in the first place and just
Yeah.
wanted something and left. It's that will happen, it's okay,
Yeah.
right? It points out when you meet someone like Rebecca, for me, for example, who's really well intended and is a good friend, it makes all the few, hopefully few bad interactions you have are all worth it because in the
Oh,
process of going through those, you meet really incredible friends. So
yes.
that'll be my
Absolutely.
closing.
Appreciate that, Flex. But and to add on to that, like, yeah, you definitely, like, as streamers, we want to be nice to everybody. We don't want anybody
Mhm.
to like leave our stream or our channel. So it's hard for us to like to put a stop to people who are just like trying to
Yeah.
get stuff from us sometimes, unless it's like really, really blatant. But like
Yeah.
we were talking about, it's not always so blatant. And sometimes they there's like inch closer and closer and closer
Yep.
and just do it a little bit at a time. And as streamers, it's like very hard for us to just be like, okay, get out, because like we don't want anybody to leave,
Yeah.
So just something else to think about, I guess.
Yeah. And it's okay if that's tough. I think
Yeah.
that's part of it. Um, and people will find their own way, and that's all right
Yeah.
too.
All right. So, well, thank you so much, Flex, for being here. What would you like to plug? I'll have all your links in, the description. This will be on YouTube and Spotify. So, what are you
Oh,
playing
cool,
right
cool, cool.
now? When do you usually stream? Whatever you want to plug, go for it.
Oh, you're very sweet. Well, I typically stream Tuesday through Saturday, and we start at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we usually go for about 4 to 5 hours. My wife has been streaming on Saturdays, so she's a sweetheart. So we kind of duo stream on Saturdays. But I would say in terms of plugging, if anybody here has any interest in leaning into any of my content, then you can just check out any of the links that Rebecca is kind enough to post in the description, or you can just search for my name. It's XILENTFLEX, and whatever link appeals to you, click on it. If you don't resonate with my content, that's totally fine. But I say this on my streams often. If you're kind enough to support both Rebecca and I always advocate, please support Rebecca first and foremost, especially if there's any monetary interest in there and wanting to support a creator. Give it to her first. But if she's not live or she has a week where maybe she's taking a great vacation with her fiance and you want to kick it with us, then you're more than welcome to join.
Okay, you know what? Okay, I have something else to say. So that just reminded me, you do this thing too, like whenever somebody raids you, Flex does this thing where he says every single time, I've never seen anybody else do this before or since, he will say, support the streamer you came with on the raid before me. Like if we're live at the same time, support, the person that raided me before me. And I think that's also another way when I was getting to know Flex, that's another way I could tell he was like very genuine, because it's like, who would ever, as a streamer, like, who would ever say, like, oh yeah, go support this person instead of me? Like, because
Seriously.
we're all trying to get
We're
those
all trying so
views.
hard.
Yeah, we're all trying to
Yes.
get the views. We're all, we all want to get to like, big time streamer, thousands of people in our views. So it's very, very rare for me to see somebody like actually say like, oh, go support them and instead of me. And I mean, to this day, Flex, you're still the only person I've ever seen say that.
Oh, thank you. I know how hard Rebecca has been working, especially transitioning from Twitch to YouTube. It's a scary thing to do, and she did it absolutely confident. And she's got her podcast, her content, and she's working all the time, full time. Like, so yeah, absolutely. I have nothing but respect for like how far you've come, and in relation to that comment, it's just like everybody's working very hard. So
Yeah,
be mindful of that.
yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I appreciate that, Flex. All right. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I think we had definitely had a great
Thank you.
conversation.
Oh
So I
yeah.
really appreciate you contributing to this podcast.
Thank you for the invitation. I am honored and privileged. I appreciate it.
Of course. I really wanted you to be here. I mean, like, considering the months that I chased you to be on this podcast, like, I really wanted you to be here. So,
I'm very appreciative too,
because I
especially for
knew
your patience.
because I knew you'd be a really great guest. So thank you so much. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. I will see you in the next episode. Bye. Go check out Flex's links, please. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.